What is going on, guys? Welcome to the Wednesday live stream with the one and only Reefing with O. How are you, buddy?
I am good. I am great.
Fabulous. Good to
Well,
have you here.
always a pleasure, man. Thank you for having me. Thank you for inviting me.
Always like having you. So today we figure we do a bit of a Reef Geek tech junkie and talk about, the simple versus the overly complicated tech rabbit holes. And you are a gear junkie. You are.
I am.
Yes. And
Okay.
you randomly buy and try all types of equipment. So you're actually perfect.
Wow. Thank you.
I know. You're worse than me. You probably played with more things.
My wife is right here.
You are such a behaved reef keeper. Only the best. The best. The
Yeah.
best. What a good guy.
Thank you. This is
So
all Devin stuff. We're just talking about Devin stuff. All the stuff he's had today.
I know, right? Tons. So how actually I guess starting off, how's the tanks doing?
The tanks, they're doing wonderful. Wonderful, man. They're doing wonderful because I'm not messing with them. So
That helps.
yeah. Speaking of which, I do have some upgrades
Do
that I'm
tell.
doing. So the Reefapalooza Orlando, I got my hands on an eShops the Florida Peninsula,
Oh
the
yeah.
acrylic one.
Yep.
So I drilled it, put it on a little. Actually, I have like an ATO, like the glass ATO from Innovative Marine. So I
Yep.
put it beside the tank. So it's connected to the big system. Didn't want to run another system, and then I have two little blades sitting on top because I don't want to obscure the peninsula side of the tank. So it's going
Nice.
well. And then so that's big tank is doing well. It's just there's just a little one of those little USB pumps. You find them on Amazon.
Yep.
So it sort of feeds the return section and then it drains. I put a bulkhead. It works absolutely well.
Nice.
And then for my kids' tanks, my kids have a 25 Lagoon that I
Mm.
cut out the filtration, and I've been struggling with it since it doesn't have filtration in the back. So I ordered the X Aqua in and out kit, which is coming this weekend. So
Is that like a DIY sump add-on or what is that one?
I am going to do a DIY sump pad on, but I'm going
Okay.
to drill it and use a return and overflow kit and use like what do you call it? Like a 5.5 gallon Aquion tank as the sump.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I started this conversation by saying I'm not doing any upgrades, and here I am talking about upgrades. But on that nano tank, I'm also trying the Illumagic X4, which is the first time I've gotten my hands on that light. So it's
I,
working well so far,
yeah.
looking really good.
How's the colors and how's everything else on it? Like
I love
what's the initial review thoughts? Because I haven't seen them in person yet. So
well built,
Mhm.
really well built. A lot of coverage because it has the four lenses. It has a lot of royal blue LEDs, which makes it get like you have a really good, solid blue pop,
Yeah.
right? Without the need for UVs or it's just a good, solid blue. So I like it. Well built, built
Nice.
really well, but still light, really
Mhm.
thin.
Nice.
The aesthetics are there. Um, I got the mounting kit. I like it. And then I used the Blaze series, right? The previous series and the app like
Yeah.
left a lot to be desired. This one was I wouldn't say to me when you're rating like apps for lights, like
Hmm.
the AI is at the top of the list. And I
Yeah.
have to say like this comes in like this was easier than a Radeon on Mobius to set up in my opinion. Um
Solid.
I'm I'm tech savvy,
Yeah.
so mhm.
Take that with a grain of salt.
Yep.
Yeah, we're both techie. Yeah, I do agree because I played with the original Blaze app, and it worked, but it wasn't as like slick as some of the other ones. So that's good to hear that they made a good overhaul for the new stuff. So okay, first question on the lagoon. Why did you take out the filtration? Is this because you planned on sumping it, or is it
This, this
some other
was
reason?
a long time ago on one of my whims. I cut out the filtration because I thought I was going to do like a hang on the back filter. And it just didn't work out, right? I think with no filtration and
Yeah,
my kids feeding, it just didn't work out.
that's fair.
So
Okay.
I didn't work out. The last time I did it, I hooked it up to my big tank and it worked well. So I was
Mhm.
thinking I would do one of those CCHA internal filters. The hang on the back filter was loud. It just didn't work out.
Fair enough. Okay. I was trying to figure out your logic of cutting out the internal filtration. So that's good. Okay. Piping into a main tank would be a sweet way to go, though, if you could do that and just like maintain one water volume instead of multiples. That's always a nice kind of appeal.
One's in the bedroom, one's out here, so that one wasn't feasible. I also thought about hooking up some kind of water change thingy and have water mix a couple times a day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know a few people have done that, and they have like a big chain of like 4 or 5 systems. They all basically just like water change with each other and like balance out the parameters. It's an interesting way to do it, as long as everything's, kind of dialed in right. So I get okay. So now on your tanks, is this so the tank behind you? I'm guessing is probably your most high tech system. You had the most gear on there.
Yes.
No? Yes.
Yes.
Are your smaller tanks, are they high tech, or do you have them fairly simple?
Oh man.
They're all high tech.
So the tank behind me is mainly running off. Ooh, do you see the bubbles? Oh, that's the we're using a FaceTime camera. That happens. Oh, we don't want to get wild with it. Like, ooh. It's running. So it's mainly running Hydro's controller, right?
Mm-hmm.
With a sprinkling of Apex.
Yeah.
So
wait.
it's mainly.
wait. You have 2 different controllers on it? Okay.
Yes.
Carry on.
No, well, no, so it's running a Hydro's controller.
Yeah.
With just an X10, an IV, a lot of Hydros equipment, just mostly 99% Hydros. Working with, I don't even know the list of Hydros equipment I'm running on it. I think I would have to go into the app and get a breakdown. But that tank is like a perfect summary of whenever you buy anything Hydros, it's useful. So if I need a leak detector, I'll take out like the old X2. So it's running Hydros. Like I have an X10, I have a X4, then I have an old X3 that I used to run my calcium. I literally hooked up the calcium reactor last weekend, and I brought out an X3 because I needed an extra pH port. So that's what's running. Yeah. My kid's tank, that's running an Apex, right? Apex that's mounted on the wall. And then I sort of ran something with some channeling along the baseboard in my apartment with like a Aquabus cable. And on this tank, I have a Trident because I needed an automated way to test calcium and magnesium. And the only way to do that reliably without getting the Reef, come on, I don't think the Reef, I'm space challenged. And the only way to sort of do that was with a Neptune. Hey, the Hydros is my primary controller, and I've tried to get away from the Apex, but that thing is so useful and so versatile. It keeps sneaking back into my life. I actually have a 4th tank. That's a work tank. I set up like a tank at work, and nice. I actually hooked up an Apex to that tank because there is you're in IT, so you might know there is even if you hook it up to the corporate Wi-Fi, which was challenging, there is a time when it times out when you need to re-log in. Like the Wi-Fi has a like when you get
it has a cap. Oh, you're talking about like releasing IP?
Yes. Yes. So the easiest way to just
give yourself a static.
Well, not a static. It's just, well, I don't control it's a building in a WeWork, so I don't control it. So instead of setting up a like my own little Wi-Fi network, I just use an Apex because it has a wired connection, and that's what it runs off of. So it just made my life easier. So I just did it. So I had an old head unit and an old. You remember those old EB4s, the ones with the mechanical, where you would, when every time something turns on, you hear the mechanical click click.
Yeah.
So I had an old EB4 hanging around and a head unit, and I just hooked it up to.
Nice.
Yeah.
Beauty. I still have, well, not the 4. I have the EB8 chilling on my shed. It's just like a backup if I ever need it.
Yeah. I wish when that tank started, I was like, I'm not putting a controller on it. And now all 4 ports are used and I need more. So there you go.
Hey, so far I've held off and not put a controller on my Nano. I'm trying very hard to keep it as simple as possible, but I broke down at an ATO because that got old refilling it, and then just a single doser. So that's it. So far, so good.
Yep. There are some questions. I see a couple of people tag me. Is it okay if I just answer a couple of questions?
Oh yeah, for sure.
So one-armed reefer said he just got one of them as well. He loved the fact that you can swap the pucks over as well. So I really, there's a couple of things, man. When we get into the technical things of the X4, there is something called boost mode where you can absolutely like get a little bit of power or dedicate power to some channels. Um, I think this light, in my mind, this light is useful beyond what I'm looking for because, like one arm reefer said, "Hey, I'm a big refugium fan. I think I go out of my way to always put a refugium on my tanks, even if I have to do work. Right? It's just something about me. Right? It's a me thing, and I like the fact that if I decide to go in a different direction with lighting,
Yeah.
I can always put freshwater lights on these and put it over refugium. Right?
Mm-hmm.
At my store in Long Island, the aquarium shop, he has like one of those Julian sprung huge mangrove trees,
Yeah.
and it's in the middle of one of their like LPS systems, and he's using one of the freshwater lights to like put up in the ceiling that's illuminating the mangrove. So yes, I like it.
Mm.
It's
Nice.
man, you know how you know, not that I'm comparing it to the sky, but I literally, not that I took the sky off the tank, but I had a sky
Mm-hmm.
and I had the X4, and I mean the build quality when you held them was like night and day for the two lights. It's yeah,
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, the skies discontinued now. I think I saw.
it is.
I think I saw that in the Neptune group. Like no more new ones.
I I I I I I wouldn't be surprised. I am actually would be surprised if I see more wave pumps because I don't know anyone unless you, Dev, have wave pumps that you've been using for years. I don't know anyone who's had wave pumps for years. I think the one last person who I know, well, not that I know, who I've been watching, the
Mm-hmm.
two people who I've been watching that have been using wave pumps for years and were advocating for them was Fisher Hex
Yep.
and what's his name from Fragbox and
Mm-hmm.
and catastrophic failures, and those guys took them off. I think Fisher Hicks did last year, and I think Fragbox just did. But I don't know anyone. Like I know folks who are still running MP40s with the white boxes, right, for
Yeah,
years. I don't know anyone who's been running.
that's fair.
I think there were some innovative features, right? It's a Ciche based pump, and
Yeah,
the fact that when you took it out of water,
it
it
stops, which is
stopped.
cool.
Yeah, and it you could like because it was connected to the Neptune, there were some things you could do with the different modes. I
Mm-hmm.
think it had some really good features. I don't know, those pumps just didn't last long.
Oh, that's fair. I never bought one because they're always a little too bulky for my taste. I'm always more like the minimalistic visually, and that always is too chunky for me. So I never tried one. But um, shame they're good lights if they don't burn out on you. Yeah, I don't. I know lots of people that have them and love them. I borrowed one off somebody and played with it for a week just to try it. But that's about my limited experience there.
Which one? The Sky?
This guy, yeah,
Oh, I ran one for years, like two or
yeah,
three
you liked it.
years, and I actually did like it.
Mm-hmm.
And then hooked it up to the Apex. I just think the build quality, and maybe that's just saying something where I ran it for years and it just worked fine. It was there and it just works.
Mm-hmm.
It
Yeah,
worked. I just the
have you,
color was a little too white for my liking, so I had to
that's
turn the
fair.
white LEDs down. But
Mm-hmm.
it's just a feeling thing, and I had forgotten how it felt until I was holding it in my hand, where
Yep.
the panel on the front was loose, felt
Oh yeah.
loose. Again, it's. I think that's a personal opinion I'm expressing, where it just
Mm-hmm.
feels cheap because
Yeah.
you might touch it and it might feel different to you. But yeah,
Yeah. Have you ever used the ATI Stratons? They're
I'll
super
tell you
thin
what.
and
I'll
you have
tell you
one.
what. No, I do not have one. My LFS has asked me
Yeah.
to help him with. He's doing a new build. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the aquarium shop in Westbury. He's doing a new build, and he's waiting for the Stratons to come in. So I
Yep.
think they came in yesterday, and he's going to be hooking them up to his client tank. So pretty soon, I'm going to be seeing one.
Yeah.
Let me just breathe a minute and just. You've heard of Ultim tanks?
Mm-hmm.
He did an install for Ultim tanks, And Ultim has the mitered edges. So Ultim last year at Reefapalooza, California, Ultim started doing reef systems.
Yeah.
So he put one together for a client, and I'm telling you that it's everything has covers, right? Everything has covers. It's so nice put together. The tank, like Ultim tanks aren't cheap, but they're
Mhm.
well put together where the pipes that go into the system, like the cover fits around the pipe and there's no room to wiggle it. Like it fits to the millimeter. So if you
Super
were
tight.
off by, yeah. So when you screw it into the bulkhead at the bottom, the pipe that comes down, the cover of the sump fits around the pipe to the millimeter, where if you're trying to shake it by a millimeter, it doesn't move. It fits perfectly. So I'm I know I went off on a tangent there,
That's
but
fine.
I'm gonna
Tangent
be
away.
seeing a I'm gonna be seeing a Stratton soon, and I'm excited.
I'm
Um,
curious how they are. Apparently the older one. This is like party knowledge off just conversations. Apparently the original ones are a little on the overly white side for most people. Apparently the pros are better, but I've never seen. I like how thin they are. Like they look nice, but I've never seen one, so I don't actually know where they are in person. They just have a cool aesthetic to them.
I just wonder what I always think, and I've had this private conversation with someone is
Yeah.
some of these products should be more readily marketed and available in the US, because I can tell you without revealing too much, like it took my LFS some effort to be able to get a dealer account to buy a Stratton for his customer. Like it shouldn't be that way. It really shouldn't be that way. You should be able to, as a store, like call up a wholesaler and say, hey, I need to order these, right? It took effort where you couldn't find a form on a website, or you filled out a form on a website and it went to the oblivion, and then someone called you back a week later. Like, come on,
Yeah.
I don't understand how sometimes, like, you're trying to sell a product in the US.
Hmm.
Why is it so hard when someone is motivated to buy to actually get their hands on it?
Yeah, it's a little tricky for sales.
Yeah, so whoever's distributing Stratton, like,
Yeah.
no, that process should be easier.
I only like I've seen them online a bazillion years ago. I think I noticed them like a week ago in the what's new section on BRS, and that's kind of why they're in my
Oh,
mind.
they're there. Oh,
Yeah,
so BRS is selling it now.
I think so.
Ah,
I'm pretty sure it was the what's new section.
oh, interesting. I'm gonna take a quick look because I didn't know. Did not know. Oh,
Okay.
they are selling them now. They're selling the Pro.
Yeah, which are probably the better ones to go for. Um. Okay. BQ. Do you think a heavy reliance on tech in reef keeping diminishes the natural tank intuition? How do you balance technology with hands-on, intuitive tank care? I think intuitive care is just a long-term thing. Like the more you longer term you're in the hobby, the more years you have staring at corals and tanks, the more you kind of can look at it and know if it's happy or not happy or know something's off. As for tech, I think it depends. Like you do not need all this automation if you're around and you're very hands-on on your tank. But if you're not around, then I think it kind of helps you. Like I know when I first set up my nano, I was like hardcore on testing elk and stuff pretty regularly. And then once it was fairly stable, I don't think I've tested in far too long. Like I'm overdue for it. And it's like the stupid thing because I'm like, oh, I have another elk tester I can put on the tank. But I'm like, nope, I'm trying to keep this tank simple. I just won't let myself, even though there's one like 8 feet away that I could just throw on it. Maybe one day, but still trying to hold it. So, but yeah, I mean, if you look at it and you just see stuff's not happy, then that might be a sign. Okay, I should probably test it. Um,
I've never seen. I'm a fan of technology,
mhm.
and I've been a fan of technology in the hobby from day one. The technology didn't make me a better reefer. I became. I've never seen technology or gear make a bad reefer a good one. Of course, taking
Yeah.
out the instances where it saves your house or saves your
Mhm.
equipment or whatever, like let's not, the doesn't make a bad reefer a good reefer. I've seen it let people stay in the hobby longer because they can automate things.
Yeah.
But I have never seen someone who's a bad reefer get gear and then all of a sudden become a good reefer, right?
I
You have to
agree.
go through the motion. So I don't think so. Maybe because I'm biased. I'm a gear junkie, but I think it reduces the time you need to spend on a tank. But
Yep.
you still need to go through the motions of the learning. And if you
Hmm.
have, if you have a young tank that's not mature, like it's gonna give issues, and it doesn't matter how you automate everything, it doesn't, And hey, I mean, you're in IT. I studied IT. This is
Yep.
my like
It's fun.
technology outlet.
Yeah.
It was speakers at one point, and
Hmm.
before that was computers, and now it's my tank. So I'm just gonna embrace it instead of fighting it.
Yeah. It's funny because Lee, tech makes you lazy. Well, it has for me. To an extent, it does. Um, set up an auto water change, you're definitely lazy on water changes. Even when I stopped my auto water change for ages, I was still lazy on water changes. So now that I re-enabled it for a gallon a day, my tank's probably going to be happier. It definitely does. And I know there's certain things where, like testing, I'm fairly terrible at testing normally. And I haven't tested my tank in far too long because I relied on auto testers. But this can be a catch 22 because if your auto tester's out of whack, you could be going off false readings. Now, funny enough, I've actually been testing daily lately because I've been testing out the NP, the nutrient trident, which
Hmm.
is getting released pretty soon. So I've been actually doing daily tests, just comparing it, just to like see how everything tracks and stuff. So it's like the most I've ever tested in my life the past few weeks. But
I,
normally I'm
I
a slacker at it, like hands down. I know that.
I I think we get bent out of shape sometimes of
Yeah.
the absolute numbers for things and try to. I'll just give you. I think I was
Mm-hmm.
talking to Greg the other day, and let me just tell you my alg readings for everything. So as of the 15th of
Mm-hmm.
May, I tested my alkalinity. So Saliford, and by the way, I tested everything twice, and it was within a 10% off the
Yep.
first test, so I just went with the number. So Saliford alkalinity was 10.2. Trident alkalinity was 7.96.
Yeah.
The IV was 10.08. My
Mm-hmm.
HANA Alk checker was 8.5. So two were clustered around 8 and two were clustered around 10.
Yeah.
Like to me, I just like that's about 9. I'll think it's 9. And it didn't make sense for me to, and if I averaged them, it would have been 9. But by the way, Dev, they
Mm-hmm.
all trended. I tested for 3 weeks and they all trended in the same direction, right? They all trended. Like the Trident was always 2.5, 2.7 away from this. So
Yep.
I'm worried more about the trends more than the absolute number. So the trends always
Yep.
trended in the right direction. So I'm not going to be worried to calibrate one to the other so the number feels good to me. It just,
Mm-hmm. Do you know what? Okay, that is a very big point. A lot of people obsess over the numbers. Like there's been times because I have an Alcatronic and a Trident on the tank. It's like one's like, okay, you're 8.6, and the other one's like, oh nope, you're 9. Right? It's like say 0.3 or 0.4 off. And I usually just don't care because I'm like, at the end of the day, I don't care if it's 8.6 or if it's 9. I care if it's stable, it's going down or going up. So, I mean, yes, you can recalibrate more frequently and have everything dialed in perfectly. But at the same time, as long as the trends are the same between both of them, I know everything's happy. Because a lot of people get too worked up and obsessed over specific numbers, which I don't think gets you anywhere. I kind of think it makes you make knee jerk reactions and probably mess with your tank more than you need to a certain extent.
yeah, it's the trends. I think we should
Yeah.
worry more about the trends more than the absolute number. Like, why is my Hannah off and why is my this off? Like, and by the way, please do not do one-off tests with anything and then calibrate. So if you have a Hannah checker and you have like a Trident, don't calibrate or change based on a one-off test. Like, do a couple in a row. So here's my other than my automated tester, I have my handy dandy Craftsman.
Oh, I got one of those too.
Yeah.
It's mine's yellow and black, but yeah, same thing.
Yep.
Basically the
So
same
this is
container.
my Red Sea calcium.
Yep.
This is my nitrate by Nios, which I like. This is my calcium by Elos, which I like. Hannah Checker, low range, ultra low,
Mm-hmm.
alkalinity, nitrate. This is the magnesium for the Hannah, which I do not like. And then this is the Salifert test kit I was telling you about. And then this is my what do you call that? The digital pipette that you recommended to me.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that thing.
love
Yeah.
that thing. Oh, that thing saved my life. Because I realized that I think it was Reef Keeper who's in the chat. I think Reef Keeper on a stream once told me to line up my Hannah Checker bottles, and I realized that the little 10 mil line,
Yeah.
you line them up like they're all off. I was able to create like a stairway to heaven with the way the
What?
so yeah, they're all off, Dev. Like they're never the same in the same place. So
I need to set them on something level.
yeah,
You're making me question this now.
no, I that's why I use the
Frank,
pipette.
it's like a
Yeah.
0.5 mil difference.
Yes,
Son
yes,
of a
says.
something. Jeez.
Yes. So that's why I love the digital. Like it makes me feel a lot better. So yeah.
You know what? I have to dig my note now.
Yeah. Oh, you're not using it? So man, you recommended it to me and then you're not using it?
I
Yeah.
haven't manually tested in ages until recently.
I have three. They have three brand new Hannah Checker bottles, and they are way off. Assuming my desk is somewhat straight. Yeah.
So one of my LFS buddy lent me his like Hannah low range testers, and this looks like the biggest pain in the butt ever to use with all these like discs and liquids and powders. I was like, no, not even going to do this.
I've never used the magnesium checker from Hannah, and I didn't use the old nitrate one, which I think I gave to someone.
The new nitrate one's fantastic. I literally got this a couple weeks ago. One powder, it's easy.
Yep, love it. The magnesium is a couple of different powders. Look, it still has the protective thing on it.
Yeah.
I just pressed the button. It's probably the first time I've ever turned it on. So, yeah.
Okay. So out of the Hannahs, what I think is worth buying is the phosphate that disappears, the nitrate high range, and the alkalinity checker.
Yep.
Those are the staples. And then if you're quarantining stuff, the copper one, just because copper sucks to try and read the.
I have copper test kits, but I don't use the Hannah. I have the Hannah ultra low phosphorus because I tend to have I tend to battle zero nutrients. I had an accident about a month, I would say 6 weeks ago, where I was changing my auto feeder and I dumped all the food in. So it resulted from 0 nitrates to 1.5. Mm-hmm. You know, tank wasn't happy about that. But I mean, I have my auto feeder going off 8 times a day. So so I have both Hannah checkers, but you're right.
Yeah, that's fair. Hannah checker for trace elements? I don't think so, actually. At least not that I've ever seen. Hannah ultra low is okay, but Hannah phosphate's better. Yeah, just a straight up normal phosphate. That's I think that's the better one because it's just easy. And if it's easy, you'll do it, and you won't bugger it up as much. Yeah. So those are the ones I would for sure recommend. The calcium one, I found the refills like way overly priced, so I never really used mine. I think I sold it or
it's
gave
just
it away.
Too many steps. Like I like the Elos calcium because you can do hey, I just want to know 50. There's one that takes you 30 seconds to do the test, but it goes up and graduates into 50. So you'll know if you're 300 to 350, 350 to 400. And for when you have a calcium reactor, that's fine with me. And then you have the one. So I typically use the big drops and get myself up to 400. And then I'll use the 10-point drops to know if I'm 410, 420, 430. But Trident, like I think the Trident, when you're using a calcium reactor, you just need to know if you're trending in the right direction.
A little more, a little less makes life easy.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the biggest takeaway for today. Don't chase or obsess over the numbers. Pay attention to the trends. That's our best advice. There was a couple.
I'm gonna write that down.
Yeah, there was a couple of comments earlier. One of them was about like the most essential tech for a tank or automation, and it was an ATO, which I 100% agree with, and the other one was a heater controller, which I would probably also agree with for just like the general. Now, I don't even have a heater controller on my Nano. I probably should, but
that's true.
Yeah,
I never think of those as tech. I consider those staples. So I always think beyond that. But you're absolutely right. You're right.
Yeah, automation or fail safes depends how you look at it.
Yep.
I mean,
outside of that, my next best is alkalinity, because I think depending on the 2-part you're using, you can always do, like if you're using BRS 2-part, you can test calcium once a month.
Yeah.
So I like alk checkers, and also alk checkers when you're using the Alcatronic or like the Coral View one,
Hmm.
you can put the waste back in the tank. So you don't
That is
need to
nice.
have a waste container, right? You don't need a waste container, so I think it's less maintenance, right? Because the acid solution after the test, it gets dumped back into the tank.
Yeah. No, very, very true. Recommendations for an ATO for a Pico. Uh, I have the I haven't used it, but the Toonsy has their little mini new one out that looks nice. I haven't used it. I have the bigger one because it's, I don't know, not that much bigger, but that one works pretty well. The sound annoys me though. I hate the speaker. When I keep thinking I'm going to solder it one day because like if the tank goes into feed mode or like the power's out for a second, it's like nah. It's
Oh,
very
it
loud and
does.
annoying. Yeah,
You
it's
can't
annoying.
turn it off.
No, I'm gonna like desolder the speaker one day.
No, that is interesting. You cannot turn it off.
Not that I'm aware of. Is there a way?
I
Maybe
don't
I'll.
know.
I
I
don't think so.
know. I know. You have to. Let's look into it because the pump comes in like a low power mode, and to like turn on the pump, you
No, no,
plug it in
yeah,
and plug it out 3 times, and it goes into higher power. Like simply unplugging and replugging the plug-in 3 times. When the power cable on the pump, if you
yeah.
disconnect and reconnect it 3 times in unison, it turns up the pump.
Huh. The manual shows
I
how to disable the alarm. Oh, inside the
Yeah.
controller's 3 jumpers. Oh, well, that's way easier than desoldering it. Perfect. I'm doing that next.
No, no, no. For the old one,
Yeah.
absolutely. For the old one, not for the new one. The new
Okay.
one I don't know. Devin, by total accident today at work, I was just had YouTube in the background, and it came across one of the Tunes videos of
Yeah.
how the controller works, and that's how I saw the video of how you turn the pump up. So I'm assuming there's a way to turn it off because that would really be annoying.
Yeah. It's true.
Yeah.
Okay, now here's another consideration. Because they're asking about an ATO for a 5 gallon. I remember just one of the Reef Builder videos that the one when Jake was still there when he had that one like I think it was a 20 gallon, but he's put a glass lid on and he's like, yeah, I had a cup of water like a month. It evaporates next to nothing. So I mean, you could just put a lid on it and cover a good chunk of it, and then just not even worry about an ATO. Especially if like you're in an office or somewhere where you're not in there every day, like it's a good consideration.
Yeah. Man, I think it's longer than that. I remember watching that video and Jake said he's only filled the ATO like three
Yeah,
times in like 5 months, but he had a glass cover that
yeah,
sat on it and had a little cutout for feeding. And it absolutely, like, obviously, periodically, like salt creep on the glass, you have to
hmm,
clean it off, but it really reduced the evaporation.
yeah. No, huge, massive. I mean, you still have like cracks around; it's not completely sealed. And yeah, if there's too many fish in the tank, there could be oxygen issues. So you obviously wouldn't want to overstock it. But yeah, for just not really worrying about an ATO, it's a super simple solution. Devin, have you used the auto water change with the Dostronic? Not sure if I'm going to use that update yet. Yeah, the option's there, but I've never used it for that purpose. It's nice to have the option, but I think the other update too made it a bit quieter. But yeah, it's not something I've tried though. CJ's Aquariums. What's going on, CJ? Question: what would you like to automate that is not possible with today's tech?
Ooh.
I know.
Trace elements, right?
What would you automate?
I don't know. I'm just thinking.
I know.
I don't know. That's a good question.
I mean, if there was an auto tester that fine-tuned your trace elements, would be pretty crazy. Probably
Oh no.
expensive.
I
Probably
still
overkill.
can.
No one needs that.
You
But it'd be
were
cool.
mad scientist with that. You remember every time I used to make fun of you with that tray with all these
Yeah.
syringes sitting on top. You look,
My closet.
you were doing moonshiners, right?
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, that's a good question. I don't know what I would automate. I think everything. You know what? But I'm the type of person when something comes out, I
Hmm.
used to say it's not needed, and then all of a sudden I get hooked. Right when alkalinity testers came out, I was like, not needed. I was the old
Yeah.
guy, not needed, and then
Ooh.
man, I was hooked.
Lewis, auto light adjustment according to nutrients. That's a cool idea. I don't
In
know if I'd
the,
do it, but in theory, it's kind of cool.
no, no,
If
no.
you have higher nutrients, you need and high flow, you need higher light. And if
but
you have
not
lower nutrients,
adjusted
you
on
can
a,
burn it. You want lower light.
yeah, but you make the determination and adjust it.
Yeah, that's fair.
You think about stability, right?
Fair.
Hey, it's Reef Keeper's here and it's great. Reef
Yeah.
Keeper, I don't know if because he had the Trident first. I remember Reef Keeper telling me. I remember having a phone conversation, right? This wasn't
Yeah.
even text. He said, "Oh, I noticed that when I do things to the tank or make adjustments or put my hands in it or something,
Yeah.
I see the alkalinity adjustment drop for a couple days, or when I tweak this or tweak that." Can you imagine you feed and you happen to test and there's a bunch of phosphates and all of a sudden you turn the lights down or up? Your corals will never be stable. Come
Yeah, that's
on.
fair.
That
Okay.
is
Okay. In the chat, there's a few about auto glass scraper. If there was an actually good one, 100% agree. Because that's always like the bane is like, the glass is perfectly clear and I gotta go clean it all. And the only robo, I've actually, someone gave me one, the old like robo snail thing, but it's like way too loud. And then there's that little like tiny pill shaped one with a camera that's been coming out on Kickstarter for like 10 years now. That looks cool, but it'll probably never come out because they keep saying they're coming out. But
auto frozen feeder would be awesome.
there's
That
been a
is
there's been another one of those things on Kickstarter too for ages that keeps being delayed. But it basically uses like a Petri cooler, like a water cooler, like the little PZO Petri, whatever it's called, Petri cooler. To keep it frozen, it was like a little carousel that dropped them in, which was kind of cool because you have a week's worth of cubes in there. But
I saw a guy do one once. He bought like a cheap fridge from Walmart, drilled a
yeah,
hole, um, had two dosing pumps connected to a line. So one would do the fish food, pump it in,
was
and
it my
then he
video?
would have and then he had another food that would push RODI water through the
Okay.
line to flush it. And
Nice.
so the main line when food, like the food was always in the fridge until the second pump came in and flushed it. Of course, he said every 6 months or so you had to, you had to replace the lines because the food would get stuck in there because you're not cleaning it properly. But I think someone used it.
That's fair. I've done it without the flushing, but the flushing actually is kind of a cool idea. If you had a little Y and like piped your ATO through it, it'd like always constantly flush itself. And then you just
That
inject the food
is
and you do it.
no crap. You see?
Phil, ReefingWithO, are you using the Alcatronic with the Hydros? If you have been getting stable sample the last couple of days, as in the Hydros is not updating.
I sold my Alcatronic because once I got the IV, man, the Alcatronic was so loud. It was a constant issue
If
with
the
being
pump is
so
not
loud.
aligned, it's loud and annoying. If you get the pump
Oh
in
my
the right
god.
spot, then it's fine.
It's just no, I never got it fine. And I
Yeah.
try to say, okay, I'm gonna put it on my kid's tank, but man, that thing is loud.
Yeah, that's fair.
That thing is loud. Loud, loud, loud. The Trident is just way quieter.
Yeah, that's fair. How do you like the IV? I have not used that. What's your thoughts, opinions?
I like it. It's I like the IV. The one thing, it's not an IV issue, it's more a X10 issue. I don't like the way the tubing is secured. It's I got fat fingers. It's one of the reasons I hate thumb screws. It's the little um have you ever you've put a float valve in your, so with the float valve on the outside you put like two different pinch nut things and then screw it. It's a little bit like that.
Okay.
Which when you have fat fingers you have to squeeze a tubing over a nipple and then put like I hate it. I really hate it.
Do you have to change every often or is it a one-time deal?
I think when you put it on and you get it, but I had to do adjustment a couple of times to get, and I still don't think I had it right. Listen, I love the X10. I think the dosing head is where the only place I have like just a little annoyances. Like you need a screwdriver so it depends on where you put it. You literally have to take it off or use a screwdriver to change the dosing heads. And silly me, I kind of mounted it like this, so I can't get around. Some of it is me, some of it is fair. I just don't like, and again, maybe because I have fat fingers, so I just hate that little nipple thingy, like getting that little nip. It's fair. Annoying.
I've definitely had my fair share of battles trying to get hoses over little nipples in my day with the tank stuff, so I feel CJ, automation is just changes what you babysit. Instead of babysitting the tank, you babysit the automation tools. That's kind of funny, but true.
That's true.
Yeah,
It's
fair
also
points.
fun. Like I don't think I would have stayed in the hobby or enjoyed the hobby without the technology. So for me, they are one and the same.
That's fair.
I that's for me. It's just
Both of us are techie, and we both like the tech, and it's almost a hobby within the hobby to a certain extent, right?
absolutely, and that's why my wires are never organized because the
Yeah.
minute I put this tank has only been up for a little over a year, and when you think of the power heads I've used on this tank,
Mm-hmm.
it
Yeah.
started with like Vortex. Then I went to some Neros and Vortex. When the 7 came out, I tried it. Then
Mm-hmm.
I went back to my MP40s. Then I went back to two MP60s. Then I'm running an MP60 and a Hydro Wizard ECM63 and three Neros. Yes. Yeah.
Hydro Wizard EM63. I have no idea what that is. What is it?
That is a 15,000 gallons per hour pump
On the tank
where
behind you?
if I if I turn it up past like 40%, the water goes out the tank, even though it's close to the bottom in the back. And if my tank wasn't Euro braced, I wouldn't be able to use it. It's what Worldwide Corals uses on their tank.
Yeah, I thought it was like a Panerai or something, but I know what
Yeah,
you're
it is
talking
a
about. It's
Panerai.
that
Yeah,
big long looking thing.
yeah, it's a Pantera. Yeah,
You have that on your tank. That's so real.
Greg's
On your
using one.
4 foot tank.
Yeah, listen, if I didn't have a Euro brace,
Water would
it,
be.
yeah, the only reason water stays in is because there's a Euro brace.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's great.
Oh, Reef Keeper said that compression nut. Listen, Reef Keeper. Yes,
Yep.
yes. I, man, I, This is gonna sound silly, but I put a piece of cardboard when I was installing it and put double-sided tape on the cardboard, and it fell, and the double-sided tape caught it. So yes, oh man, a pain.
Crazy man. Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just pasted in the chat. That is a pricey pump. That is hardcore. So you can start a jacuzzi with that thing.
So
Replace your
in in the
okay. Sorry.
no,
Go
I was
ahead.
gonna say in the last couple of months or in the last year, one of the things I've realized is, man, this is a hobby for life.
Yeah.
So you invest in certain things and they're gonna be expensive, but then you'll have them for years. So I have an Abyss pump now, and
Mm-hmm.
I got it used from someone. I've seen 10-year-old Abyss pumps with like perfect impellers.
Yeah.
So I'm not going anywhere, right?
Okay.
That pump is gonna come with me. That pump's gonna come with, man. If I'm using a 75, I'm gonna run it on 5% in the 75. So that pump is coming with me everywhere
That's
I
fair.
go. So yeah,
I mean, that being said, like I have like a budget fancy reefer would be like my M1 that I've had for like 8 years that's still going on the tank beside me. Still going strong. So I mean,
yep.
you don't have to be super fancy. I mean, it is fancy, but yours is like another level of fancy.
Now let's just say this, right?
Yeah.
Because something you mentioned, like your Vectra,
Mm-hmm.
I know sometimes cost,
Mm-hmm.
like you and I are gear junkies, and I know sometimes
Yeah.
cost for a lot of people is at the forefront, and I really empathize. What I am gonna say is, I think I've been doing it for 10 years, and I've had a few instances. So last year, between vacations and traveling and going to
Mm-hmm.
shows and just I was on the road every month of the year.
Yeah.
Every month I was on a trip for some reason, whether it's a conference, whether it's a work, whether it's a client visit, whether it's a vacation. I've had it in the past. The last 5 or so years I've traveled a lot for work. I've had it where stuff goes out of whack when I'm on vacation or I'm not home, and I
Mm-hmm.
cannot have my wife. Like absolutely not. So I really invest, right? And hey, 10 years ago when I started, I was really into DIY and trying to get, budget stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
I cannot, like, that's happened a few times, and I do not want to put my wife in that position where, she's like calling me freaking out because stuff not's working. So
Yeah.
I try to mitigate that by investing in I know I've been accused, like, hey, of being like an ecotech shill, but I like ecotech because between the hours of 9 to 5
Hmm.
Eastern, you pick up the phone and you call a support number and
Yep.
someone answers the phone. You're not
Hmm.
submitting a ticket, right? You're not submitting a ticket to someone who's going to answer you or going to a support forum. There is someone who answers the phone in Pennsylvania, right?
Yep.
In Pennsylvania, in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, who you can talk to.
Hmm.
And I call those guys enough where sometimes they recognize my voice and they're like, "Hey, oh, just spoke to you at the show."
Yeah.
So that that's that I don't want to deal with that, right? And
Yeah.
for some people, they might go with something less because they're willing. Like someone earlier says, "Hey, I'm retired or I work from home, so I want to be
Hmm.
hands on with the tank." So maybe you can go with something because if it breaks, you'll see it. But
Yep.
it's
Yeah.
not
That's
for
fair.
me. Like it's not for me. It's not for me. Like I just, everyone's lifestyle and stuff and budget is different, but I make decisions.
You
That's
know
the
what's
best for me.
funny? The biggest thing that's drove me ended up with like the fancier gear over the years is of trying to make my tank quieter and quieter. That's been the biggest thing with a lot of these things because like usually the cheaper stuff is not silent, it's louder. Like there's less tolerant, more looser tolerances, stuff rattles more, it's noisier. That's been the biggest thing for me.
The last upgrade I did was, you and I have been talking about this Royal exclusive, and I had an old Bubble King 200 that had the AC pumps. And the stuff is so quiet now that at night when I'm sitting down watching TV, that's
Yeah.
the hum you hear. And I
Yeah.
upgraded to a Reef Octopus Elite 200. Is everything all right? Something fell. Oh,
No. I have the 200 with the AC pump, and I cannot even hear it from like less than 6 feet away from my head. So it's super quiet. So it depends. Title Gardens can appreciate the quest for quieter setup. Yeah, it's definitely an
you're
obsession.
running the 200 with the AC pump?
Yeah,
I just want to make sure we're talking about the same thing.
yeah,
Just give me a second.
yeah. There, right there. It focuses. See?
Are we talking about the same thing?
Yeah,
And you said this was quiet?
mine is.
Dude, I went through 2 pumps and I couldn't get this thing quieter.
Well, you got buggered because mine's super quiet.
Okay, do you have a aluminum stand, right?
Yes. Okay,
I have a
that's.
wood stand. I have a wood stand.
You
It's
can see the
different.
box controller on the edge. Same thing.
Yeah, I have a wood stand. I think the wood amplifies the sound.
I don't have sides on my stand, so it's just
I
wide open.
don't either. Mine is
Okay.
open. But I think the wood amplifies the sound when you have
Yeah,
rattling. I think it does. I think when you have a metal stand, I can't believe you think this thing is quiet, man.
it is so quiet.
Oh,
Mine, you can barely hear anything. Like you don't notice it.
again, just want to make sure we're talking about the same thing. That's what we're talking about.
Mine has a different lid, but yeah,
All
similar
right.
otherwise. Mine has
Okay.
a little circle logo on it, but
All right.
but yeah, I have that and I have the 160. That's also like super quiet. That one's DC though, where this one's AC.
Yeah. Hey, I got a pump for you if you want to trade. I got a backup Red Dragon 50-watt for you.
Well, maybe I'll need it.
I'm just, I don't
we'll
have a
tr-
controller.
we'll trade something one day.
All right. I
All
told
right.
you.
Yep. Okay, BQ. How do you think the evolution of reef keeping technology will impact the future of marine conservation efforts? Advance the home aquarium systems contribute to the better understanding of natural reefs. I think it does for sure. I think the more tech that makes reef keeping easier, the more people will be in the hobby, and the more people in the hobby will ultimately lead to, hopefully better conservation or, more people that love the hobby and go into, sciences or support, saving the reefs and that type of stuff. So I think reefing in general brings awareness and it also lures people into the, I don't know if you want to say industry or science or whatever for conservation. So I think it's good for the hobby at the end of the day. And I know a lot of the companies, like I know Ecotech for one, I know they always donate and support to a lot of the museums and research places, and they support a lot of those initiatives, which I think is cool. So
And I think I remember once you flew across the world to go plant corals. What was it, in the
Hell
Cayman
yeah,
Islands?
that was
Cayman
awesome. That was
Islands?
such a
Okay.
that was a cool trip.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think I
that was
remember.
that was in the Cayman Islands. We went out. I did like 2 dives a day, and we went out and helped do the coral trees and all that stuff. It was so cool to go see it all happening in the Caymans. And the coolest thing is we went night diving when the corals are spawning. So I saw the corals spawning in the wild out in the ocean, which was really awesome.
Are you scuba certified?
Yeah,
Huh.
I've done probably 50 to 60 dives,
Really?
and this is only like vacation diving because
Really?
I
50
have a
dives of it? How?
yeah. Every time I go somewhere, I try and sneak in some dives. Like I have a lake, so I've probably done a handful of ones there.
Oh,
But in the ocean, I mean, on that trip alone, I probably did. I might be over that because I think I did 2 dives a day for a week. So I probably did. I'm probably over that now. I probably did 14 dives or more just on the coral restoration trip.
really?
Yeah,
BQ says Belize has a great reef. I think Belize has the second largest reef system for outside of the Great Barrier Reef.
yeah,
Yeah, all
literally.
protected. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so Misha says I had the Bubble King 180. It's not really silent, and I notice that a lot more noise comes from the air outlet. Okay, then the hose. Now they have a foamy thing on there. The 160 or 180, whatever it is. I think it's. I have the Bubble King minis. I don't know if that makes a difference, but mine are the minis. And I also have my air silencer goes to outside air, so I wouldn't even hear the tiny bit of sucking on my main tank. So that could be relevant. But the one beside me is just wide open, and I still don't really notice it.
I will say, Dev, when I connect, I find that I get a little bit more air when
Mm-hmm.
I take the silencer off and just
Yeah.
run the half-inch tubing from outside directly to the tube. Like I use you know like a
Mm-hmm.
nipple thingy and just connect them. I just think I get more air that way if you're bypassing the silencer.
Yeah, because the silencer has a big sponge in it to help make it
Yeah,
quieter and
and
baffle the noise.
but when I do open my window, I hear the outside.
Yeah.
You hear the noise outside. Um, I got a question for you. I know
Yes.
we've. How do you prevent when you run the skimmer line outside? How do you prevent it sucking in whenever it rains or snows? How do you prevent that?
Mine goes to my attic,
Oh,
and I plumbed it into a canister filter with like a string sediment filter, so just like a very coarse filter, and it sucks through the sediment filter, so it's basically like a giant pre-filter in a way.
gotcha.
Yeah.
So I have, what do you call it? I have a what is the auto water change? The not the auto water change. The water change is the Python. So I sort of hook mine up to a Python,
Yeah.
and it's hanging down.
Mm-hmm.
And when rain's falling, it's highly improbable that air is gonna suck up the 2 feet up the
Yeah.
Python and come in. So that's
Yeah.
what I do.
Interesting. So
Yeah, because
you got Python as your air intake.
yeah,
Why not? Makes sense. I mean,
yeah, it's just hanging outside. It's a
that's
back
fair.
alley. It just hangs outside. So
Yeah. I wish Devin has PDF write ups on all these DIYs. I mean, you could transcribe my videos. I have thought about making like something, but I just haven't had time. Like I've had these crazy ideas. Well, people always ask for these in audio form, and I keep thinking I should just rip the audio and turn it to an audio podcast,
you
or like,
should, you
or
should.
make the Reef Dudes Madness PDF of all the random projects. But maybe one day.
This should be your first one. Like this should be your first one. Like make this a podcast, the Reef Dude podcast.
Okay.
Um, I think you have a library of like I'll tell you the two that I remember specifically, like Voss models. You
That
said the Voss models.
yeah.
I love that because the aesthetics was so good.
Yeah.
This is one I would never do, but I
Mhm.
really appreciated when you paint, especially since I just set up my calcium reactor and now I have an ugly thing sitting in my living room. I like the fact when you painted your canister, your
Mhm.
CO2 canister. Now,
Yeah.
I just want to go swap. So
Yeah.
my solution is going to try to get a neoprene sleeve, so you can hide it or make it look
Yeah.
cool. But the fact that you painted it white to match the Vertex calcium reactor, I
It
think
looks
I'm
good.
impressed. Yeah, it looks good.
Yeah, it's little things. They make a difference. Yeah, the Voss one that was like super early on DIY, but the mount I see out in the wild now, I just get the secret little smile inside. I'm like, ah, my little project's made it to like so many different reefs, and it's been
Yeah.
redone, and people have reshared their DIYs and my DIY a bazillion times now. But yeah, it makes me happy to see it out there. I'm like, yep, yep, yep. Original idea from many, many moons ago,
Hmm.
which is fun. No, I meant the air outlet on the top, not the inlet to the red silencer. Oh, I don't know. I don't think I have any issues with mine. Let me reread that one in a minute.
Yeah, yeah. If anybody in New York, wants to trade the Bubble King, there are some issues with it. It's an old skimmer, but if anyone in New York wants to hit me up on Instagram, ReefingWithO on Instagram, we could work something out.
Yep.
I'll
Uh,
trade for something else.
does anyone have problems with pollen when taking air from the outside? Another thing I used to do is I originally my original airline outside was just a tiny little tube, and I just took a gray those little electrical weather boxes, and I poked the hole for the tube in that. And I put that on the wall outside, so it was in that little box. And I drilled a bunch of holes in the bottom of it so the air could go in. I just put a little tiny bag of carbon there, so it kind of worked as a pre-filter to get any chemicals or nasties out before the air sucked it in.
I thought about doing a pre-filter, but I mean, I don't have a pollen issue, I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm on the third floor of an apartment building and it's going in a back alley. I think if I was somewhere where they were spraying pesticides or so, I'd be a
Mm-hmm.
little bit more worried, but I've never had any need to. Um, the one time I ever had issues was there was a day, I think 4 years ago in New York, where we had close to it was like 105 degrees
Mm-hmm.
and 100% humidity,
Oof.
and my tank overheat because I was sucking outside air.
Oof. Yeah, that makes sense.
The humidity, it's not the air temperature because and my chiller just couldn't keep up. Like I had a chiller, that chiller
Mm-hmm.
like so I think in instances now I have programming that hey, if the temperature gets too high, shut the skimmer off.
Yeah, yeah, that's makes sense. I mean, especially if it's that hot out, you're sucking in hot air the whole time. It's a good consideration, actually. It's not one I
Yeah,
would normally think of. Um,
yeah.
they spray for mosquitoes at least once a year in the summer. Hmm.
Hey, I live in the concrete jungle part of Brooklyn. There's nowhere for mosquitoes to breed.
Yeah,
Just yes, I know there's parts of New York where there's spray. I
mm-hmm.
don't live in one of those areas.
You're saying, yeah. A couple other ones in the chat are like motorcycle, dirt bike filters. Someone else had a gasoline filter. Yeah, any of those inline, basically paper-ish filters
Yeah,
would do the job
you,
for sure.
you know what? I'll think about it. Maybe I'll do it.
Yeah, I'm sure there's no downside to filtering NY air.
Damn, Fish Ventura.
Yep,
That's
but it
you
doesn't
guys
hurt to do.
convince me. You guys convince me, especially with those air filters. You
Yeah.
guys convince me. That still hurts. So that still hurts.
Yeah, so I don't know. Yeah, my solution was just use a single canister filter with just like a really coarse, like a string filter, basically just as a particle filter.
Yep.
But
And I bought a my new skimmer is a Reef Octopus Elite. For a little extra, I was able to buy a lid that
Mhm.
already comes with the connector so you can make a
That's nice.
recirculating CO2. So I
That's
don't know if
nice.
I'm going to use it. I was thinking my outlet for ozone, I'll just hook up like a carbon bag to it.
Hmm.
But that was when I bought the skimmer, I just kind of added that to it because I thought it would have been cool.
No, that is cool. I almost went the Reef Octopus route, but then I was sold on the BK because I was told they were sat quieter. And but I've also heard really good things about those, so I'll try one in the future.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Fish Ventura, thank you for the happy face super chat. Much appreciated.
You must
Oh,
have carbon monoxide then. Oh, I got carbon monoxide detectors. They're everywhere. You
all these
need to
people
have them.
breathing.
Got that one right here. Oh,
Hmm.
listen. Yeah, New York. One of the projects I need to do with the hydros is to do a like CO2 monitor with the 0 to 10 import.
Yep.
I think I ended up buying the stuff from Harry's Aquatics a long time ago and never hooked it up. So
So you already have one just sitting there. Do you have the
yeah,
advanced? Oh no, with the hydros. See, I did it with the Apex. I had to get the ASM module and
yeah,
wire it in.
Yeah, no, the 0 to 10, you just get a chip,
Sweet.
and yeah,
Oh,
so
that's easy.
the way Harry. Actually, I think you know what? I think I ended up. I don't know where it is. I think I have it here somewhere, but I remember you just get a breakout, but because the 0 to 10 port on the hydros also
Yeah.
takes electrical input, so you
Oh,
don't need
that's
an
nice.
advanced. Yeah, it's 0 to 10
That's handy.
in. There's a 0 to 10 in and a zero
Yeah.
to ten out.
I don't see it on his website. Oh, here. 3-piece voltage divider for ASM module or Arduino DIY. Okay, that's different.
Yeah,
He makes some
and
cool stuff.
he sent me
He's
the
a creative
link.
guy. I like it.
No, he didn't send it, but
Yeah.
he sent me the break. He sold me the breakout box, but then
Mm.
he sent me the link to the CO2 sensor to get on Amazon.
Oh, that works. Sweet. Yeah, I ended up buying some random CO2 sensor off eBay for mine because they were like super crazy expensive, and I ended up finding one for like a semi-reasonable price on eBay, which I went for. Are either of you two going to Charlotte this weekend for Aquatic Expo? Sadly, not.
Yeah, that shows on my bucket list of things to go,
Yeah.
and I will not be there. Then, no.
Yeah, maybe in the fall we'll hit up a couple shows, but the current
All right,
moment in time is still crazy.
all right. Guess what?
What?
I'm adding it to my calendar for next year because I think this is the second time
You
I'm
said that.
apologizing to Brandy and Matt. And I think if I apologize next year, I think someone's gonna come find me. So I'm adding it. I'm just gonna put a reminder in May and June of next year for
Mm-hmm.
Aquatic. Except I heard it was a one. I heard so many people talking about it. I heard it was a good show last year.
Maybe next year I'll have hope.
Yeah.
Apparently, it's going to
Well,
be gigantic.
yeah, I heard it was a really good show last year.
Nice.
Um, and I think that area has a lot of reefers, and they, you know, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Rap New York, yes.
Yeah,
Listen,
he'll definitely be there.
any show that's in New York, I tend to go. When you had the aquatic experience in New York, I went. So any show that's in New York, I will go because that's just my home area.
Any show I go to, I have to fly across the country into another country, to the other side of the continent. Yeah.
Yes, I see a good question. Reef dudes, do you enjoy being a minor league celebrity at reef events?
I don't know. It's always weird a little bit, but I don't know. I don't
First,
consider myself that because I'm just another obsessed hobbyist, like probably everyone else watching the live stream. But it's fun.
first of all, you guys might not know, but Devin is actually really tall.
Everyone, okay. Do you know what's funny? When I was at one of the show, whatever I was at last, I had so many people be like, "Oh, you're way taller than I expected." I don't know why people think
Yeah,
I'm short.
yeah. People, I get the same thing too. They're like, "Oh, you just sit there with Greg, so you look short."
I feel short beside you. You're tall though.
I think you're taller.
No, I'm like, I
Whenever
feel
Greg,
short beside you. You're tall.
whenever Greg and I are walking around at the shows, people are like, "We thought it was the opposite. We thought Greg was the tall person. Here we are making fun of Greg, and and he's not here."
Yeah, perfect.
How tall is Dev? Yeah, Dev's like 6'5", 6'6".
No, I'm like 6'1" ish.
No, man.
Yeah. Danny used to be 6'0". Did you shrink? Did you shrink, or is this with like thick shoes on?
Is that
5'11" now.
is that the one
Dan just
where
has fancy
you get
Maybe,
older, you shrink?
maybe. Just wear like big, thick sole shoes. You're like, what are you talking?
Said I'm shrinking.
I'm shrinking.
There was a joke in there somewhere, Than, but I'll it's a private.
Um, Richard, Devin, UV 24/7 or intermittent. When I run it, I leave it on 24/7, but mine's been turned off for a while. If it's UV also does add a bunch of heat to your tank, so I tend to use it less if it's really warm, just to keep the tank cooler. So that's one consideration, but it does help for depends what your purpose of running UV is. But because I run ozone lately, I'm not overly reliant on UV, but I do periodically I'll turn it on and just leave it on for a while.
I run UV. I have a 4-foot aqua. I took it out to change the bulb the other day, and something said just check the sleeve.
Mm-hmm.
That thing was like chalk white. So the bulb's not getting to contact the water because the cord sleeve for the UV,
Yeah.
it's like chalk white. So I had to order replacement cord sleeve.
Yeah,
I don't.
okay.
How does that thing get white? Like, what happens?
Yeah, actually, that is true. Mine does that too. It's just got to be whatever's in the salt water reacting with it. I don't know, actually. That's a good question.
Do you have to change it every time you change the bulb?
I don't know if I have to, but I feel like I know I've changed it once at least. So
Do
probably
you
like every
check
time
it?
they're
When did you check it? I just randomly. Yes, I
I
think
only
you
check it
have
if I
to check.
change a bulb.
Yes, so check it. So I just want to know if every time I change a bulb, I have to check it.
I don't think they're that expensive, so it's probably worth just having a spare just in case. And then you can citric acid it and then just like swap them or something.
Citric acid, the cord sleeve. Why
Yeah.
don't I just citric acid the one I have now? Why did I order a new one?
Well, then you can swap it. Then you'll have a spare and you just
You know
swap it.
what? That's a good idea. Does anybody in the chat ever citric acid a cord sleeve? I want to know because Dev, that's going to impact. It's going in water. I don't want to citric acid it and then it's gonna shatter or something.
Citric
Oh, Eric Root has said you can clean them in muriatic acid.
that's citric acid, same thing. They're just different levels of acid.
All right.
Vinegar. That's how I clean everything in the aquarium. Citric acid is like the go-to. Ask him if he runs lanthanum. It can make glass cloudy. Use lanthanum chloride, phosphate D, anything like that.
Not recently. No.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
The citric will take a lot longer. Yeah, so citric acid works. Muriatic's quicker.
Yeah. But
nastier.
I will use the citric acid. I'm not comfortable with the muriatic acid. But someone said something if you add sodium lanthanum. I think I did early on in this tank.
That could definitely.
I also run
lighten it quicker.
Kalkwasser.
Yeah.
I also run, and the Kalkwasser drips not too far from where the return pump is. So probably that has a lot to do with it more than anything. Probably, right?
I mean, very well could be, right?
Yeah.
You know, I know temperature, stuff precipitates. Like, there's lots of things that definitely could be.
So I think what I'm going to do is I am going to change it, but the old one, I'm going to keep the packaging for the new one. And the old one, I'm going to then take my time to try to clean it.
Yeah. Eric says the chalk appearance is just precipitation. So maybe.
Yeah. Now you guys are making me think that because, yes, you're right. It's all right. And you know what? You've also given me another task. Maybe I need to change where the Kalkwasser discharges, right? Because it is discharging right by my return pump now. And maybe that's not a good idea.
I do mine in the chamber before the return pump, so it has a little bit of time to dissipate a bit more.
My sump is 2 chambers, like it's almost a 4-foot sump. The refugium is in the back, and I have no baffles or chamber. It's just refugium. It's one water level, the entire sump, and it works perfect for me.
Yeah, well, that works. I slightly sad. I had my new tank was supposed to be delivered Friday.
New tank?
Yeah. I'm changing my office tank. Here are the loop. So I'm downsizing / upgrading my office tank to a 4-foot tank to be a little more reasonable in my office.
What size do you have now?
Ridiculously big. I don't know, 6.5 feet or something like that by 28.
Is that what you're doing the aquascape for?
Yes. What do you think it was for? No,
you're
right
talking
now,
about you and I who change stuff all the time.
Yeah, so right now it doesn't really matter because my office window's open all the time. It's mild outside, not a big deal. In the wintertime, when it's all closed up, my office gets crazy hot and humid. And in the summer, it gets super hot and humid because it's such a big water volume in my little dinky office room. So I'm putting in a 4-foot tank, which is going to be like a third of the water surface area for evaporation, which make a big difference.
Devin,
yes.
That's the reason you gave your wife. Like, we're all friends here. What's the real reason?
No, that's why.
Okay. All right.
No, that's literally it.
Blink if you're in trouble. Blink if I got it.
Okay, half of it is it kind of makes it more exciting because I loved the build process of a tank. So it's just something new and fresh for me. I love building tanks. That part to me is really fun. And the other part is, it gets so hot and humid, and I work out of here, 75% of the time and live streaming, and I just don't want to be dying and baking and yeah. So, anyways,
I got
so that's my main motivator.
you. Got you. And you're gonna be growing frags.
No, it's just like a display tank for me. But even like now, because I have tons of coral in this tank, I'm still debating: do I get rid of it all? Like, part of me just wants to start fresh and be like a new hobbyist again, and just go find new frags and different things.
Okay, that's why you need to come to Reefapalooza, fly down to California or
Yeah,
Orlando. Um, Dev, Orlando's like a quick plane. You just by the
quick.
time, yeah.
It's a long journey. It's a long journey. But no,
What's the flight time from where you are to California?
um, full stream is rather low. No, sorry about that. It is definitely a little bit of a journey. It's gonna bump our mics a smidge. So it's a journey. It's probably a good eight, I don't know, 8 to 10 hours, 12 hours. I don't know. It's a journey because I got to fly usually to Toronto and then Toronto to Orlando.
Toronto?
I'm on the opposite coast. I'm in the opposite side of the continent.
I thought Canada was like one oh yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm
but they're
sorry.
still
I'm making,
opposite
I
ends
know,
of it.
I know. I'm
Okay,
making fun of you.
I
We
live above Washington. Like not that like Seattle will be the biggest one south of me. So I'm the
that's
complete opposite end of you.
that's why it's 5 p.m. in where you're in BC.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
so you're in five. That's why it's 5:12 in BC. Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So there. Yeah. So you're 3 hours in the future.
But if you went to California, it's just a hop and skip down the road.
Yeah, California wouldn't be bad. I actually
Yeah.
should try. I haven't been to Rap California. I should try that one.
What?
I know. When is it?
It's September.
Yeah, that maybe I'll go to that one this year.
See, yeah,
We shall see. We'll see when it's
yeah.
closer. Um,
California is fun.
one of the questions was, what's the tank going to be? Will it be SPS, LPS mixed? I am volume turned up high here too. Did I turn it up too high? Probably. Um, I am
Er,
gonna. I love shaggy polyps, and that's really gonna be the focus. So there'll probably be tons of millioporas, and maybe I'll do Gonnies and stuff in there as well. But I'm just basically it's just stuff that I really like. But polyp heavy stuff is kind of my general focus.
Eric Rude. What's your Instagram?
Don't buy new sleeves ever.
What's your Instagram, Eric? Or you can send me a message on. I'll follow you. Is it Rod? I don't know. What's your Instagram? And then yeah, I would really like to get that information. So on cleaning the sleeve. I mean, one's coming, so I have no choice then. But I didn't realize you could clean it.
Mm-hmm. Yep, definitely can. Come down to Rap Kelly September 3rd. Okay, that might have potential.
Not September 3rd.
Yeah,
Is it 3rd?
that's what it says.
No,
Cover the bottom with
no.
rock flowers. That could have potential too, actually. Lots of rock flowers could be fun. To be determined, but we'll double check the dates. As far away, doesn't matter yet. But yeah, even now, like I'm like, do I move in any corals or do I start fully fresh? Because I mean, realistically, I could frag them out of my tank or this tank and have an instant tank. But I kind of want to have different stuff that I don't already have, just to
September 2nd.
mix it up. Yeah. All right, I'll see if I can swing that, make that happen.
Oh my gosh. And then it's going to be tough for me. And then, so September 10th, oh man, wow, it's going to be, this is going to be a tough one. I'm going to try and pull it off because then I have a work trip on the 10th and 11th. So it would be going to Rap, coming home, and then leaving again.
Yeah. Wait, leaving again to where?
Work trip. Not
Work,
it's just
okay.
it's just local-ish, but it's gonna
Yeah.
be, tough.
That's fair.
So as soon as I land, basically change suitcases and I'm out the door again.
Yeah, it'll be crazy. Yep. Chris can hook you up with rock flowers. I have debated doing an extremely rock flower heavy tank. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But it would be, I don't know. I would probably buy like 50 of them. It wouldn't be cheap, but just like load up the sand bed and then. But yeah, I'm gonna start out though. I think I'm gonna do just like a lot of millies, very millie heavy because I love shaggy millies. Like they're one of my favorite acros. And then we'll
I
see after that.
heard just responding to what Than said, and they're
Mm-hmm.
talking about shows. He said the Charlotte show was the official. I when I was in Orlando, I heard some of the vendors talking about shows they're attending, and man, I think this thing can be a life on its own because like I forgot who it was. I think he was doing. I think it was Coral Nerd.
Mm-hmm.
He was gonna be doing a show in he's going to be doing Aquashella, and then I think he's going to be doing a show local in California, and then he's going to fly back across the country to do Skelly Fest, and it's just it's like September was going to be a crazy month for him show wise. So man, it can get taxing.
Yeah, no, definitely can. Especially if it's back to back to back to back. It definitely can take a lot out of you. Okay, sorry, September 7th and 8th. That sounds right.
Yes, yep. There is a awesome question. Woody's gamer tag. If
Yes.
somebody gifted you a 500 plus gallon tank,
Mm-hmm.
would you want it? Does bigger equal more fun?
It depends on the dimensions. I mean, would I take it if it was free? Probably. Would I have somewhere to put it? Who knows? I would, if I ever moved and built a house, I would totally do a big custom one. I'd be tempted to try an in-wall tank, but on a corner, so you have two different views of it. And I think a long, like an 8 foot tank by 3 foot, like some dimensions like that would be pretty cool. But have it like in a wall so you see the two corners, and then have like a fish room behind it, so it's easy to deal with everything from the back. I think if I was to do a super big tank and I had the opportunity to build a custom thing, it'd be something along those lines.
I think there is probably a 1% chance I would do it. I think there is a point where I would rather have bolt like I've always said I would get multiple 250s or 200s because if
Yeah.
something happens, you can always take one down.
Yeah.
I think a 500-gallon tank when it's there, it's so permanent, right? It is
Yeah.
so permanent. I know the fit. Like I am intrigued by everything you're thinking, the colonies and
Mm-hmm.
the fish choices, and then of course I know he's not here, but Alex G's aquarium. A little
Yeah.
jealousy that someone has like 7,000 gallons in their
That's
basement.
huge. Yeah,
You
his is
have to.
massive.
I know, man. You got to. I don't know if you're ever going to Orlando, but you have to make a stop in Chicago. Like maybe do a layover at some point and go see
Good
his.
to know.
It is awesome, but
Nice.
um, man, it is. I don't. I think it's just. I think there's a point where, man, I need this is my hobby. Like it needs to be fun. I think a 500-gallon tank. I don't know. I don't think it would be fun for me.
Yeah. If if I was building a house and could do a custom one, I would do something big like that. Like a built-in one. I think it'd be cool, but it would have to have its own fish room. And then I would just have one tank instead of multiple, or maybe I'll have frag tanks, the fish room, who knows. But I would probably just have the one main display if I had one that big.
I think you're a planner. You're a better planner than I am. So I think you would plan.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
I
I obsess
so
over planning.
so I see. So I will
Yeah.
just say this: the one thing I see, the mistake people make with a 500-gallon tank is it's not the cost of the tank itself.
Everything else.
It's yes, because I don't think people realize like, hey, when you're doing 500 and you get to 3/4 or an inch, MP40s don't work. So everything gets
MP60s
scaled
and
up.
yeah,
Everything gets scaled up in terms of cost, right? The pumps you need cost a lot more.
you're
You
not
cannot
dosing
have a
100 mils a
500.
day. You're dosing a gallon a day. Yeah,
You,
it
you
definitely does.
your skimmers $2,000-3,000. Your this is you can't have like MP40s because you're shooting.
Yeah.
It's like shooting a water gun, like pew 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 pew.
Yep.
So I don't think people realize how everything scales. The pump choices, the light choice. How many lights do you need to light that?
Lots.
8, 10, 12?
Lots. Lots.
So
Well, I'll keep all my lights just in case I ever upgrade. Oh, I put so overkill. But I because I've been slowly taking rock and all
Excuse
the
me.
stuff out of the tank, but I had an XR15 on my sump for my frag section, which I didn't need.
Really?
So I took that out and then I put that on my nano tank now, so it's super overkill. But
Yeah,
uh
I go overboard with the light and the flow.
oh yeah, I do too. And I'm definitely gonna do the same thing on the new tank, especially if it's acro heavy. Like I have 4 MP40s in this tank, and all 4 of them, my 6.5 foot tank, are just going in my 4 foot tank. So there's gonna be tons of flow in there, which will be good.
See? Yep.
Lots of flow, man.
Yeah, some reef keeper said no one 5 mil cap of the product is the entire 2 liter
I know.
bottle.
It's pretty much. So yeah, it's definitely consideration. Uh, I'm pretty sure every tank over 100 gallons got some type of fish room to support it, even if it's just a mixing station. You know, I have a mixing station for my big one. I have nothing for the tank beside me. And the smaller one, same thing. I don't know if I'll have anything. It'd be nice to have it, but
Some I Woody's gamer tag and Eric,
mm-hmm.
I would hope so, but I think I've seen people make that mistake where the tank is it, and then you've seen it before where people get like a 150 and then don't have the capacity to do big water changes, right? Where you're still doing water changes in buckets. You whenever you have to plan for like scenarios, because if you plan on having a tank long term, it's
Mm-hmm.
gonna be times when you're gonna need to do a big water change. And how many buckets do you need? Like,
You needed brute buckets at that point.
yeah, just get a brute, put it. I have a third. I have the capacity,
Mm-hmm.
the ability to do 60 gallons in. I can change. I have a 150 tank over
Yeah.
the course of 13 hours with my RODI. I can
Mm-hmm.
do 120 gallons in water changes. So I can do 60 between buckets and my 30 gallon. I keep enough buckets where I can do um, 60 gallons. And then by the time you do the RO and you fill those up, another. So over the course of a day, I can
Yeah.
do 120 gallons. So
Do your brutes live on your fire escape?
no, my brute is in
Okay.
my closet.
All right.
And I have a float valve now. So I
Mm-hmm.
put it in and go to bed and wake up in the morning and voila.
Always use the float valve. That's another big lesson that has burned me multiple times in my young days of reefing.
I still wake up in a panic sometimes. Like, oh
Yeah.
I have float valve on all my RODI. So when I'm going to bed or doing something, everything has a float valve now. I
Yeah.
even bought the eShops clip on for when I need to fill a bucket. I have the eShops clip on float valve.
I have one somewhere behind me. I just bought another new one for just the ATO on the new tank because I'm gonna again plumb it into my RDI so it refills itself. So it definitely needs a float valve. Always a float valve.
Always.
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 But okay. So back to the techie automation things. Having ATOs refill themselves is like such a glorious thing. That is another big automation that I have come accustomed to loving.
Um, yes, I love ATOs. I've been through the entire. I
But
don't
an
know how
ATO
you
for
have a.
your ATO.
I I don't want to run the wire. It's I'm so scared of running the wire. I'm so scared, man.
Okay, do you know what is wonderful? Like in my office right now, I have an RODI unit for my office, which refills the ATO for my fish tank, which also has a little wire that runs along my baseboard to the vivarium to refill that Mr. ATO. So they'll just refill themselves constantly, and every 3 or 4 days it kicks on and just tops them both off. It's wonderful
Yep.
because that was always one thing with the like other reef tanks. You got to make sure your ATO doesn't run dry, or you got to drag it and refill it every week or so. But not worrying about it, and even my nano, again, the pump for the ATO is in my vivarium mister, so it pulls from there. So everything just like not thinking about topping it off is wonderful. That's a big thing with ATO because refilling ATOs is a very common reefer task.
Yeah, I try to go. I'm actually in the process of trying to maybe get something custom built because I want to go about 2 weeks. I'm actually
Yep.
going to upgrade the Nano first. And then I'm gonna get 2 weeks. I bought a 10 gallon tank. I'm gonna stick it. That tank is in my kid's room, so I'm gonna stick it under a bed, and I'm gonna figure it out this weekend. But yep,
Yep.
absolutely love it. Um,
Yeah.
Baby. Someone said you upgraded to the Be Easy closet mixing state. Yeah, I used to, but in the winter, obviously, cause issues. So I have a 30-gallon brute. You got to explain something to me,
Okay.
right? Why do a lot of people, not you per se, just give me. I've seen people whenever they're doing a mixing station, they always
Hmm.
do, hey, I'm gonna do fresh and drain it into a salt.
Yeah.
To me, a lot of times when you do that, you have half the capacity for salt. Why not just get a big giant salt water vat and fill that up? And that way, if you have 40, if you have space for 40 gallons, if you
Hmm.
do 20-gallon fresh and 20-gallon salt, you could only mix 20 gallons at any one time. Why not just get a 40-gallon container?
It probably depends on the space. Like mine, I have equal containers, which are roughly 38, 40 gallons, and one salt water. And again, one's RODI. But I look at it is I can have it full of salt water. And if I need to, I can pump my fresh into my salt water to make a new batch reasonably quickly.
But if you just had one specialized container, you would be having the salt water all
But that
ready at once.
but that's also my ATO bin, and it's
Oh, for
also
you, it's
feeds
your
my calc
ATO bin.
water.
Now,
So
that's why I was saying you. I knew that for you,
yeah,
but for other people, it's not their ATO bin. They
fair.
just see it being built that way and just
Okay.
automatically build it that way.
Oh yeah. See, I just pulled my ATO from that bin, so I don't have to do
Yeah.
it, right, and I never have
No,
to
no,
worry about it.
no. I totally get it, and I knew that's you. I think you and I have had this conversation before, and I knew
Hmm.
that's why you're doing it. I think I see some people build mixing containers, and they're like, "Hey, let's do the fresh to salt," and
Yeah.
I'm like, "Why? Why not just get you know?"
Yeah. But yeah, see, Barry, they do it so they have RO in hand as well. Like it is handy to have RO, right? If you're
Why?
mixing, okay, what if you're mixing dosing stuff? You're mixing a couple gallons of dosing, you need RO. If you got to refill your ATO, you need RO. If you're doing Kalkwasser, you need RO. There's many reasons. See? Oh, actually, Woody Scammer Tag. I need RO too. I fill my ATO, my Kalkwasser, etc. Just
Okay,
today, I needed 25 gallons. So there's legit
you know
reasons.
what? That's fair.
Yeah. So I mean, it
Yeah,
depends how you reef, right? Like
I
that's
I
the
don't need
beauty.
RO on hand. If I need RO on hand, sometime my wife has some hair product. She's mixing something. I
Yeah.
just take out a 5-gallon bucket and a that clip-on float valve and just make water.
Hmm.
And but I'm also space challenge, right?
Yeah.
I'm also space challenge, so I'm always thinking of how can I maximize this space.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. That's kind of what I did too, but I split mine 50-50. Like I could have went bigger in the salt and small in the RODI, but my Slate OCD also likes matching bins and everything else to look pretty.
Yeah, I need a new ATO container, like special built, that's gonna occupy a specific space,
Hmm.
and it's gonna hold a lot of water. Probably
Well,
gonna go with advanced acrylics to build it for me.
do you have laundry like in your apartment?
Nah,
No? Okay. Because like what I did is I got a stacker washer and dryer and took that extra spot and built a little shelf and put my bins
uh,
below the shelf. Like that's how I snuck in a mixing station at the end of the
oh
day.
boy,
I know. Things we do for our takes.
blink if you're in trouble.
I do have to cut her quick pretty soon because the wife works pretty soon.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. How's the baby? I did forgot to ask, man. How's baby?
He's great, growing like a weed, keeps me busy.
How is baby impacting reef life?
Less time for reflight life, which
Mm,
is why automations are wonderful.
I know, right?
A lot of my maintenance is at like midnight. If you're doing something or refilling something, which reminds me, I got to refill my dosing stuff pretty quick because it was pretty darn low. So again, that might be at like 11 tonight, 12. We'll see when I actually get around to it, but we shall see. But yeah, it
Yeah.
definitely, if you before child, if you don't travel much, easily, could survive tank me doing stuff. Automation when you have a crying baby and everything else, so newborn, that definitely saved my life on that one. So
So I think you coined a new term in reefing: BC before
BC,
child, AC after
yeah,
child. So your
yeah.
reefing mantra. All right.
That depends the level of automation required.
Yes.
Yep.
See, you brought up a good point because you automate because you want to spend more time with the family, right? My kids
100%.
are older,
Yep.
So I automate because I spend time on the road. So
Hmm.
everyone automates for different reasons. There's no one side fit title guard says Etsy never child. Ah,
Yep.
you know what? You could probably bring a child in the facility, then, and I think it would be absolutely safe for them. So it's interesting that I think you have the most, I'm not going to say idiot proof, but the most child proof facility and no child or
Yep.
never child.
No, exactly. All right, guys, I do have to wrap her up and go and get the child speaking of, but hopefully everyone enjoyed today's Wednesday night live stream. Oh, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you. Make this a podcast, dude. I'm
Okay,
down.
we'll
Just
do that.
yeah.
I can start it now, but is it worth going back in time and like?
Let's start it now, and then you worry about that later.
All right, I'll pull it off. I'll start recording them on my mixer later, but
Yeah,
okay,
that's all right.
I can pull it off for this one. All right, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it and had a wonderful thing. Fish Venture, thank you for the 4.99 super chat. Oh, thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
Enjoyed it. Hit the
All
like
right.
button. All
Take
that good
care.
stuff.
Hey, someone, Eric, like I really need that info. I think you want to comment on YouTube after the video so I can get that info about cleaning the sleeve. So thank you very much.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, though.
All right.
Thanks,
Take
Eric.
care.
Thanks, guys.
All
Have a
right.
good night.